So who recently described his joy at running a group of cyclists into a hedge whilst test driving a sports car? The answer is the naughty James Martin.
Let's move on to what you make of this. This is this quango that wants to make drivers pay for all accidents involving cyclists, even the ones that are the pedalists' fault. Now, an exclusive report in yesterday's Sunday Times claims this government-backed group, it's called Cycling England, they've received over, I think it's over £100 million over 5 years from us taxpayers. And they are pushing for this idea because they believe it will persuade more of us to give up our cars and get bicycling. It is a noble ambition. Will it work? Or simply encourage more loutish behaviour from, I'll say it again, that significant minority of two-wheeled terrorists who jump red lights, pedal on pavements and cycle across zebras and treat other road users, those who have paid for the privilege, with contempt. Now, last week, many of you rang to slam government plans to let cyclists go the wrong way down one-way streets, and a lot of you said you'd rather see cyclists registered and insured and made to follow the rules of the road. But these government advisers, they believe making the most powerful vehicle in any accident automatically liable as far as insurance and compensation claims go is a better bet. So, if a cyclist was hit by a car, it would be the driver's fault. Equally, if a cyclist was to knock down a pedestrian, that would be the pedalist's fault. Now, similar policies have been adopted in Germany and Holland, where it's claimed they've been a great success and influenced attitudes in a positive way towards cycling. So, David, I don't know why I keep picking on you. I just enjoy it, I suppose.
Because you always do.
A pedalist comes down a narrow street where you are stuck in traffic in your Beamer. He scratches your car by accident as he pedals off. He gives you a one-fingered salute, and it's all your fault.
Yeah, it's happened it has happened to me, exactly that. And I think it's an absolute nonsense, this. But also, I think the interesting thing is they're sort of putting people into two groups. You're either a motorist or you're a cyclist. And actually, many of us are both.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of cyclists need to look at the highway code, and particularly trying to cycle over Tower Bridge and round that area in London. You know, if I get away with both my legs intact, I'm pretty, happy with myself. It's an absolute disaster. I'd like to see that 100 million being spent on bicycles.
Just playing devil's advocate, do you think that making drivers so painfully aware that it would be their fault if any accident was to happen would make them more bicycle aware?
I think most motorists, particularly in inner cities, you are aware of cyclists, but they literally appear from all sorts of places. There's a lot going on. There's some quite interesting studies about if you remove all the street furniture. So actually, if you remove signs, remove traffic lights and so on, and look at different ways of flowing traffic, people slow down naturally because they're not quite sure who has right of way. I'd like to see also an incentivisation here. Instead of penalising, we're so obsessed with telling people off and fining people and making everyone aggressive. What we should be doing is incentivising people who cycle and say, because you cycle, we're going to give you X or Y. That way, it's a positive choice, and encourage that behaviour.
OK, well, I'm always amazed by Kate. A government that loves setting up impossibly bureaucratic organisations with computer systems that don't work, that generally are designed to extract money from us, hasn't yet set up a cyclist national register where cyclists have to pay to be a member and get insurance, which would eliminate some of the problems with accidents straight away.
It could happen.
Could happen. Do you think it's fair to make drivers responsible for all accidents involving cyclists?
I mean, I haven't been living in London very long, probably about 8 months, and I've nearly been killed by cyclists on 3 or 4 occasions, jumping red lights and going the wrong way at one-way streets. I know that's something you were talking about in here last week. So I think, automatically making it the motorist's fault is just extremely unfair, and I don't see how they can make that work, because
you don't need to make, because I can see the idea you're trying to make drivers terrified. That's the idea, terrified of cyclists. They can't do that.
I mean, you get good cyclists, you get bad cyclists, just the same as you get good drivers and bad drivers. And, if a cyclist drove into my car and it wasn't my fault, then, I'd be prepared to go and fight that if I genuinely believed that I wasn't in the wrong. So I can't see.
The trouble is, you ask the cyclists for their information and their details so you can come to some kind of agreement. They give you a false name and pedal off into the distance, and you're stuck at square one. Lambykins, what do you think?
I mean, I think you've got to take each individual case. Like Kate said, there are good cyclists and bad cyclists, the same way that there are good motorists and bad motorists. I mean, I would there is no way on God's earth you'd get me on a bike in London. It's just... Imagine going around Hyde Park Corner on a bike.
But there's more to Britain than London, which we must...
Of course, I think in the major cities, though, cycle routes, we need more cycle routes. I agree, and I think that it would be great if more people would be encouraged to go on their bikes. I was in Paris last year, and they have that wonderful system with the rows of bikes, and you have like an Oyster card where you swipe them, take a bike, cycle it 4 or 5 miles and put it
And
in
then
another...
never give it back.
But
Which
this
is like
is-
been the, mainly
this is
been the
what-
Parisian experience.
But you know they're trying to bring this in
stolen,
London now.
Yeah.
But again, if that scheme, which I think is a brilliant one, how can you possibly register everyone who uses it? You couldn't. It would be impossible. So I think that's
But I think you
brilliant.
need more cycle routes. And my brother's an avid cyclist, and he very rarely comes into London or any of the big cities because it is just too terrifying. And I think if the motorists are then panicking that if they hit one, I've knocked a cyclist. Well, I say I knocked him off.
You
I
just nudged him.
Well, no, but I was turning right, and a car sort of flashed me to let me turn right. And as I turned, the cyclist was coming down the inside, hit the side of my car, went over my bonnet, fell off the other side. He was okay, you know, went off in an ambulance, but was all right.
This isn't going well, Amanda.
No. So it was
Whose fault was it?
Well, I don't know. He hit the side of my car.
His, actually,
Right?
his.
But under this proposal from Cycling England, it would be your
But you
fault.
know,
which
I
is a
am kind
nonsense.
of pro-cyclist because my brother, like I say, is an avid one, and I think, but I do think if you made drivers so nervous about hitting cyclists, then know what, we'd all be driving at like 5 miles an hour. Can you
We already
imagine
are,
the chaos?
actually, in the
Well,
centre
yeah,
of this
that's
town.
true.
That's if we're driving at all. Let's throw it open to you. Is this the answer? Is this going to get more of us out of our cars on our bikes, making drivers responsible for all accidents involving cyclists? Let's hear what you have to say.
Diana's on line 1.
Diana, what do you think?
Oh, hello, Matthew.
there.
Good morning. I live in the country,
Right.
And I'm both a driver and a cyclist.
Right.
And I am a very considerable driver. I have a driveway, and instead of driving in, so I have to reverse out, I reverse in, so therefore I'm facing anybody coming, like children, animals, anything on the pavement, because I have to go over the pavement to get to the road.
Okay.
And I did this one evening. It was about 6 o'clock, a couple of months ago, when it was dark, before the summer, and there was this colossal crash, and I thought, oh, my God. In shock, obviously braked straight away, because I was going about 2 miles an hour, got out of the car, and it was a cyclist, all dressed in black, no lights on his bike, anything. He'd crashed into the side of my car, over the bonnet, terrible damage caused to the wing.
And all your fault, Diana.
Well, it would be if it happened, I suppose, next week. And I got out and I said, oh, my goodness, I'm terrible. He put his fingers up to me, swore at me, picked up his bike, which I think the front wheel was all warped anyway, and went off. Run off down the road. What does one do?
I don't know, Diana, and that's the problem.
You've got to take it individually. You have to look at each...
But
how to
every other
find
road
them?
user that I can think of, apart from people on horses, and I think they need... there's no law to even compel them to wear helmets. But every other road user, apart from horse riders, has to pay for the privilege of being on the road, right? You pay tax, you're registered, and you have insurance. And cyclists don't. And there are now loads and loads and loads of cyclists. There's more and more and more of them. The accident rates are going to go up. We need to perhaps deal with that in a way. And literally, as I said earlier, not being facetious, we have a government that's obsessed with setting up complicated bureaucratic institutions. This is a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity. Diana, thank you. Let's have another, please, Kirsty.
We have Martin on line 3.
Martin, good morning.
Good morning.
It's all the driver's fault, Martin.
No, it's not. It's not at all. There are many a time I've actually been driving, because I'm actually a professional bus driver as well as
Right.
a cyclist.
OK.
And many a time I've actually had cyclists playing chicken with my double-decker bus. And many a time I've actually had, driving along, and I have to be so aware, especially when I'm dropping off pensioners, to watch out for cyclists drive the pavement so they don't actually knock over old people.
Yeah.
They can be a complete menace. And I'm also a cyclist as well,
do you
so
think
I have to be more aware of things.
Do you think
So
there's
that
any
drivers are
sense,
just as bad.
any sense to what Cycling England's saying at all? Do you that it might... I mean, I do think in the back of my mind that it could compel drivers to become more bicycle aware if they thought they were going to be held legally responsible for all accidents.
I think it's a two-way street. I think cyclists have to be equally aware of what drivers are and what the limitations of what a driver can do, as well as a cyclist has to be aware, a driver has to be aware of how vulnerable a cyclist is. And there's many a time I've seen a cyclist come off and I've had to slam hard so I don't go over them. It's heart-stopping.
All right, Martin, thank you. And we'll have one more quick one before the break.
Pauline's on line 2.
Pauline, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Do you back Cycle England?
No, I don't really know, even though I do believe it takes two sometimes to make an accident. I think what we need are more clear-cut rules for cyclists. There's going to be more and more on the road with the government incentive, you know, people getting more people on the road with the Cycle to Work scheme. So I think we need more instruction options for the cyclists, better cycle routes, wider
I don't know. The most extraordinary thing here, Pauline, is, as I say, this is the second time we've discussed bicycles in 7 days, and every call says the same thing. And Kirsty's telling me other calls also echoing it, that what we want is regulation of cyclists, and no one's putting that on the timetable. You should have been in politics, David. You could have done it, mate.
I can still influence.
Glad to hear it. OK, we'll leave that there with the reminder that I'm a pedalist, David's a pedalist, Amanda's brother's a pedalist. Oh, you go as well? Kate, you got a bicycle yet?
Not in London.
Right. So if you don't like what we're saying, email Kate. OK, after the ads, we're asking if it's wrong to demand daily sex 1 year or more into a relationship, especially if your other half can't keep up. Does it all depend on who wants it and who doesn't? If he can't rise to the occasion, should she take a cold shower or buy him some Viagra cream? A year into a romance, I mean, what happens if the honeymoon is over for you, but not for your partner? That's the question, really. 0207 173 5555 is the number for your thoughts, and we'll hear as many of those as we can after the break.